Well, everybody, this is Jason from Iron Mission. I've been seeing some things on social media lately, and it kind of made me laugh. And one of the questions that keeps coming up is, why is it that Harley riders hate sport bike riders? And I'm not so sure that people really understand that dynamic anymore. And I don't know if it's the same as it was way back in the day. I remember growing up on sport bikes in the 1990s, and it seemed like, yeah, at the time there were a decent number of Harley riders that didn't like us very much. And I can kind of understand why. We were young, we were crazy, we would do a lot of things that were maybe ill-advised on a motorcycle, and they probably saw us as just dumb young kids. And we would spend all night I grew up in the Chicagoland area, and we'd go back and forth to the city 2 or 3 times a night up and down the expressway. Sometimes we would find some street out in a cornfield somewhere and stay there till very late at night, just kind of messing around on our motorcycles. And so I get all of that. But when we fast forward to today, do Harley riders really dislike sport bike riders? And I would say, at least from my experience and the people that I hang around with, and we ride with the hog groups, and there's dozens and dozens of riders there, I don't see a lot of that anymore. And I want to hear from you down in the comments section below. Do you really see this dynamic where you've got one group of riders that really looks down on another group of riders? Because from the Harley, now I'm the old crusty Harley rider, and I don't see it. And I don't see it amongst any of the people I ride with that ride Harleys. And I think it's because a lot of us now, well, we grew up on sport bikes and we understand how fun it was, and we understand what that was all about, because there's not too many young kids in their 20s that can afford Harleys, unfortunately, these days, unless you get an older Sportster or something that's pretty old and used. And so a lot of people now, I would say from maybe their 50s, like I am, and younger, for the most part, we're people who grew up on sport bikes, who did all the silly things, and over time we start to value other aspects of riding, like comfort, being able to put on miles, enjoying nature, enjoying what the world has to offer on two wheels. And I would also say the bigger issue is not Harleys and sport bike riders. The real issue is riders who put other riders' safety in jeopardy. And I think that's the main thing. And quite frankly, I haven't really felt that or seen that when I'm around sport bike riders that are going up and down the street and we just happen to be riding on the same road together. My biggest issue is not with sport bike riders. It is actually other riders, like in places like Sturgis or Tail the Dragon. By far, that is my larger issue. It's with other Harley riders who, let's face it, I don't know how many of you have been to Sturgis, but that is can be a very dangerous place to be while Sturgis is going on. Because I find that you've got a number of different groups of people. One, you've got people that are just really shouldn't be there based on their experience level. These are guys maybe in their 40s and 50s and above, and they've had their bike for a year. And, I'm going to go to Sturgis and live the Harley life. And you're like, okay. And then they get there and they realize they cannot handle the roads that are there and the crowds that are there. And they wind up crossing over the yellow lines around a blind turn. And they're the ones that often put people at serious risk. But it's not just them. It's the guys kind of like me who've been riding for decades, but they've got a decade or two on me in terms of their age, and their skills have diminished to a point where they just should not be on those roads anymore. And I've seen it there. I've seen it there. I've seen it Tail the Dragon, where you've got these riders who, yeah, they've got hundreds of thousands of miles on their bikes. Well, maybe not the bike they have now, but over the course of their life. But they really should reconsider whether or not they should be on two wheels at all. And so my bigger issue are those riders who are putting other riders in jeopardy. Another big one, and I see this all the time really at the big events like Sturgis, when we go to Tail the Dragon, there's a lot of motorcycles there, are the people who are intoxicated, and they should not be on a motorcycle, and yet they make that decision to not only put their lives in jeopardy, but everybody else's lives in jeopardy too. And so when it comes, at least to me personally, and I know a lot of the hog riders that I ride with on a weekly basis or a number of times a year, it's really not about, oh, that person rides a sport bike or that person's got an adventure bike and therefore, well, they're just, they're not cool or whatever. In fact, if you're around people like that, I wouldn't even be around people like that. It's stupid. It's silly. It's almost like a high school bully. Who cares? And I still really love and respect the sport bikes. I've got the Pan America here, which is kind of off screen, but that's the reason why I have this thing, because it does provide a little bit more excitement than the big touring bike behind me. And so I'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts? Do you really think that these groups of riders, sport bike versus Harley versus adventure bike, is there really a negative dynamic between them anymore? Because I just don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see why there needs to be that negative dynamic or any kind of warring between the groups. It really is about go out there, ride, have fun, be safe, respect everybody else, respect the road and everybody else's safety, and I think everybody can get along just fine. As always, thank you so much for being here. We'll see you next week. Ride safe, everyone.